everyone. So we're now into assignment 2, and so thank you very much for submitting all assignments 1. That's really good. There's nothing simple about the lesson today. Obviously, I will review with you a number of strategies for supporting students' reading. Obviously, I don't expect everything in your assignments, but I do expect particular things. So as we go through the class today, I will be emphasizing the things that are important. So let us first begin with the requirements for assignment 2, just for us to be on the same page. Now, while some people still teach lesson by lesson, there's a very good understanding now in the field of education that units of work, or let's call them, well, there are many different traditions and different countries call them differently, but basically project-based learning are the format that helps students actually to learn best, because as students grapple with the problems of the project, questions emerge. These questions are their questions, right? So what happens, a unit of work or project-based learning, what it does, it helps students to experience these problems, and if you are a good teacher, you will put things in place, let's call them support, let's call them, for the purpose of our unit here, reading support, so that students can do two things: address those problems that will emerge as they actually deal with the questions that they have, and also help students to perceive questions that normally they wouldn't see. So, for example, I'll just give you a simple example. Maybe some students actually don't see the reason to read, right? So we put them in situations and we give them tools for them to experience that actually the need for reading is urgent and it's actually quite vital for their lives. So support has two functions, right? It's for students to identify questions, and also for students to actually experience questions in the context of the project-based learning. So that's important. So this is why this particular assignment talks about a sequence of 5 lessons. Sequence, not 5 lessons which are separate. Today we do S, tomorrow we do M, and next day we will be doing triple Z. Right? None of that. They have to be connected through a purpose. And that purpose cannot be pedagogic, it has to be literacy oriented, because we're teaching literacy, not pedagogy, right? Little beings in front of us want to actually experience the need for literacy and actually experience themselves in the context of literacy. They don't really want to experience themselves in the context of our pedagogy. That's kind of our business. So that. Now, I didn't devise this assignment. I took on the teaching of this unit a few years ago, I don't know, 5 years ago, let's assume, maybe longer. And this assignment came with unit, and I tried to work with this particular assignment without changing the tradition of the unit. I just felt that it would be good enough, and it's been accredited, so everybody is happy with this assessment. So now, when we say 5 lessons, that doesn't mean that your project that you will devise with the students is going to take 5 lessons, right? It might take 20. It might take 20 hours, it might take 10 hours, it might take a whole semester, 2 semesters, I don't know. What I'm saying really is that I want you to focus on 5 lessons, not on the entire project. Right? So the idea is to produce lessons for five lessons but not necessarily all the lessons that the project-based learning of the kind that you will propose and sketch in the beginning slides of your assignment. That's something you will be doing with the students, but what we want is actually to see the 5 connected lessons. As you can see in bold, what I've written there is key components, right? That means that these things are non-negotiable. They have to be there in your assignment. I have seen students who did not put those things in. You cannot make a statement like, for example, I will teach this, this, and that. You need to actually justify it, and justify it in relation to how your teaching is consistent with the concept of literacy that you presented in assignment 1, or that you now might have changed your mind about and now you think better about it. However, if the objective of our assignment is to teach, to support students' reading, in this case, that objective is connected to the concept of literacy, what you will be teaching must be connected and consistent with your concept of literacy. All right? We have to be consistent. That's just life. So there, let's have a look now. Key components. A teaching sequence of 5 teaching plans that integrate the aspects of effective pedagogy. Right? We have spoken about. Timely feedback strategies. Now, I have stayed with that concept. It's a very traditional concept, by the way, but I've stayed with it because it was there in this assignment. But timely, what does it mean? What's timely? When you think the student needs it? Or maybe when the student feels the need for feedback, right? So that's kind of more. So a lot of concepts are still used in literacy and in education because they come to us from the 20th century and maybe from the 19th century, but we know that we can actually provide just-in-time feedback. It is actually a professional term, just-in-time. And just-in-time very often actually uses technology, because technology allows for the flexibility. If well engaged, technology allows students to find things for themselves and explore things for themselves and turn and twist them around in a way that actually allows them to see their problem multidimensionally, and in this way experience the relevance of the conclusions they reach in relation to those many ways in which they explored the problem. Now, this might sound a little bit complicated, and I'm getting my tongue twisted, that's for sure, but I've spoken about it in the previous 2 collaborate sessions, one collaborate and one podcast. So what I'm talking about, you will actually understand if you had seen those podcasts, especially the one where I talked about avatar, how the little children can, type HOM and hear home as opposed to home. That's kind of a surprise, isn't it? So there, and then when they will type home and A at the end, they will hear something else, and when they type home and U at the end, they will hear something else, the computer say. So you can see how by looking at the, say, even the sequence of HOM with different things at the ending, with whatever they might want to put in, they now explore sequences of the things that they type for the avatar to read in more than one way, and therefore they actually develop a multidimensional concept of how to spell the word home. So that's what I mean. So 5 lessons, not the entire project. All statements related to theory or outcomes must be referenced. Now, you all know it, you've been taught it, and that's really good. I stress it again because sometimes people think that they invented things on their own. No, you haven't. So that's that. Description of the teaching and learning context. So, middle school, high school, year 4, year 3, 6th graders, whatever it is, science, English language, whatever. That's the thing, what we're asking. Justification of a pedagogical approach used to teach reading. Now, this concept is much more complex than you think. I know perfectly well the party line. The party line says, I follow Vygotsky even though I have not read him. I know that people construct knowledge, although I actually don't know what I'm saying because I don't know what they construct it from, right? Everybody tells me that students construct everything from conversing with one another. Well, I'm not so sure where you can actually converse with your peers and learn how to produce a newspaper article or you name it, whatever else, right? A conversation alone doesn't work. Whereas when you have people like me and they will have an accent or they will have problems relating to their non-English background, I don't think that any amount of conversation is going to fix lots of things, right? Some things you actually have to explore yourself in order to learn about yourself or in order to find solutions that work for you. So this idea of construction, conversation, and collaboration, whatever that means, are not as simple as they are sold to teachers. There are other problems, and I might mention them to you because I want you to go into the world a little bit more informed. I want you to be a little bit critical about things. If everything is constructed, so why can't you walk through the wall? Or, for that matter, we know each of us has different talents. We have different competencies. Some of us are better at this, some of us better at other things. What else is there? Other things are actually put in place by nature right inside of our bodies. So you might not know, but we all have a play circuit. There is this guy here, his name is, I don't know, read him as however you wish. Obviously, any English person would read him as Jack Panksepp. That doesn't look to me very much like an English name, but maybe it is. It kind of smells Scandinavian to me, but I could be wrong. Anyway, he is a psychologist, a neurologist, and actually he studied play. And he's written this amazing book on human emotions and so on. I'm still plowing through the book myself. But yes, he has found out that humans actually, just like rats and just like monkeys, we actually have a play circuit. So if you remove the whole brain of the rat, except for the bits that allow him to breathe, the rat will still play. Might not remember the outcome of the play, but the rat will still play. Not only will love to play, but also explore. That's another circuit that we have, exploration. We explore all the time, and then again, if we still have the bits of the brain left in our brain that nobody cut out, then we actually remember the outcomes of our exploration. But if we, like just the neurologist, cut out particular bits of the brain from the rats, I think all of the brain, except for the bits that allow the rat to breathe, when they cut them out, the rat still was exploring. So playing and exploring were basically so basic as emotion, right? So because what happens is when the actual exploration and play are foundational, not just foundational circuits of humans, but they also are connected with emotions, because as you don't know what to do or how to get to food or anywhere, you need to explore, right? You need to explore where you are and where to go, and therefore it's connected with an emotion of what's trying to stabilize yourself. Play, apparently you always want to be happy, so it's just right there. So anyway, what I'm saying is, yes, we do construct, obviously, but we're also product of billions of years of construction, so some things are actually in place. So not everything we actually have to construct from the word go, right? Some things are actually already there inside of us thanks to evolution. So I will talk to you about a little bit today, not much, a little bit about I don't want to overburden you because you will get the idea in any case. So in that paper with Amy Norman, we produced this model that, for the lack of a better word, we call it exploratory model, dialogic model, exploratory model, which is a model that allows students to actually explore their place in the social hierarchy, explore their competencies, their interests, identify the things through which they could actually grow, and then go about completing projects in order to engage with the community so that they actually do grow. So that's a very simple model. I call it dialogic, honestly. I don't know, I keep calling it since my PhD, but let's call it exploratory model. It's quite fine. And I like it because it doesn't actually require my students to start producing very learned words like constructivism or collaboration and all of that. Yes, they are in place, but they also commit you to particular ways of thinking that in my view, unless you actually explore them critically, you really don't know what you're talking about. And when you don't know what to talk about, the best thing is to be a little bit more humble, so that one day you don't actually get put in front of a question where someone says to you, so for example, what are the building blocks on the basis of which people actually construct this their learning? And what will you say? The building blocks are the things that I put in place. Then the next question says, how do you know these things are actually relevant for the students? And you will say, the textbook said so, right? That's the only thing you can say, which is someone else said so, right? And that's not necessarily evidence-based. It's just that, we repeat whatever other people say. So let me leave it there. So principles for lesson design. I'll take you through it today just to explain what Amy and myself actually put together in this paper. That was a product of Amy's master's work. Amy is actually teaching perhaps primary, so that was the product of her master's work, and I just helped to make it a little bit more eloquent because I've studied longer, obviously, and I was her mentor. So there. So the principles of lesson design, we will go into detail with it, but the 3 phases, which is engagement is self-explanatory. Unless you actually engage with the community, you really don't have anything to contribute. And if you actually follow lesson plans that do not connect you with the community, then you really do not know how whatever you do in the classroom as a student, how does it matter, to what, and why is it relevant, and why should you be doing for any other reason than pleasing the teacher, right? So no. So engagement is the first sort of stage. Evaluation, okay, so what's in it for me? All right, we explored the community. Okay, so what's in it for me? And then next one is project design. How are we gonna go about it, right? And what will we do in the course of the project? So these are the 3 key phases that are self-explanatory. They're quite normal, and they follow from the literacy definition, which is literacy is about engaging with the world, it's about evaluating your needs, and it's about identifying what you need to do in order for those needs to be met, and it's about actually doing those things, right? It's very straightforward. No magic here. And now, obviously, once you actually identify the principles of your lesson design, you need to actually write up what kind of activities you will, what kind of tasks, activities you will actually engage students in order for these principles of lesson design to be met, what kind of resources you will use in order to support students, right? So that's self-explanatory. Right. As you know, emphasize the general capabilities and cross-curriculum priorities because they somehow disappear as students actually go about designing their lessons and the ways in which they work with students. So that has to be in place.